Malcolm in the Middle premiered on Fox on January 9, 2000, and within 2 weeks, 26 million people were watching. For 7 seasons and 151 episodes, the Wilkerson family did something almost no sitcom family had ever done before. They were broke, they were loud, they were frequently awful to one another, and they were shot without a laugh track, in a single camera style that made every explosion and every screaming match feel uncomfortably, specifically real. The show won 7 Emmys, a Peabody, and a Grammy. That was 20 years ago. The boys grew up. Their father became the most terrifying man on television. Their mother married her high school sweetheart, and one of them walked away from Hollywood entirely, turned down what his co-stars called buckets of money, and chose Dickens over Disney. Hal Wilkerson was the kind of father who could destroy a kitchen attempting to deep fry a turkey and still somehow make you believe he would walk through fire for his children. Bryan Cranston played him as a man whose body moved faster than his brain, whose love was loud and physical and absolutely sincere, and whose dignity was negotiable on a daily basis. Cranston was 44 years old when Malcolm in the Middle began. He had spent the previous 2 decades in near-total obscurity, collecting bit parts in soap operas, commercials, and shows that lasted 1 season or less. A 5-episode run as a dentist on Seinfeld was, at that point, the most visible thing on his resume. 3 Emmy nominations for Hal changed his profile, but what came after changed his life. In 2008, Vince Gilligan cast him as Walter White in Breaking Bad, a role Gilligan said he chose Cranston for based partly on a single episode of The X-Files the two had worked on together a decade earlier. Cranston won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series 4 times. He won 2 Tonys for a one-man show and for All the Way on Broadway. He earned an Academy Award nomination for Trumbo in 2015. He married actress Robin Dearden in 1989, after meeting her on the set of Airwolf, where he played the villain and she played the hostage he held at gunpoint. Their daughter, Traylor Dearden, is now an actress on the HBO medical series The Pit. Cranston turned 70 on March 7, 2026, and announced he would take a 6-month pause from acting to spend time with his family and move temporarily to France. He has said plainly that fame tested his marriage and his privacy, but that it never broke him. His own father, an actor who never quite made it, walked out on the family when Cranston was 11. They did not see each other again for 11 years. There is something in that arithmetic that makes his performance as Hal, a man who could not stop touching his children, who could not stop being present, even when presence made things worse, land differently than it did at the time. Hal Wilkerson was ridiculous, and Bryan Cranston played him as if ridiculousness were a form of devotion. Lois Wilkerson screamed. She screamed at her sons. She screamed at her husband. She screamed at the universe for handing her a life she had not signed up for and could not return. Jane Kaczmarek played every one of those screams as if each one cost her something. And that distinction between a woman who was angry and a woman who was exhausted is what made Lois one of the most specific mothers in television history. Kaczmarek was 44 when the show premiered. Born in Milwaukee to a Polish-American family, she had trained at the Yale School of Drama and spent the 80s and 90s building a career in theater and supporting television roles. Lois earned her 7 consecutive Primetime Emmy nominations for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series and 3 Golden Globe nominations. She won none of them. That 7-for-7 record remains one of the more stubborn injustices in Emmy history. During the show's run, she was married to actor Bradley Whitford, who was simultaneously earning his own Emmy for The West Wing. They had 3 children together. In 2009, they filed for divorce after nearly 17 years. Kaczmarek later said the split was unexpected on her end. Whitford went on to marry actress Amy Landecker in 2019. Kaczmarek remained publicly single for 15 years. Then, in 2024, she attended her 50th high school reunion in Milwaukee. There, she reconnected with Rusty Long, a boy she had dated as a teenager in the early 1970s. He proposed in February 2025 at a Robert Burns-themed dinner in Pasadena with the words, according to Kaczmarek, that he had been in love with her his entire life. They married on July 5, 2025, in a barn in Saukville, Wisconsin. Lois spent 7 seasons insisting that the mess of family life was worth the fight, and Jane Kaczmarek at 70, found the person she had missed by half a century. Reese Wilkerson was the brother who hit first and thought never, the one whose report cards were evidence of educational failure, and whose cooking skills were the show's most unexpected running joke. Justin Berfield played him with a physical recklessness that disguised something genuinely precise. He knew exactly how far to push the stupidity before it became cruelty. Berfield was 13 when Malcolm in the Middle started and 20 when it ended. He had been acting since age 5 when he landed a Folgers coffee commercial, and by the time Malcolm wrapped, he had appeared in more than 250 episodes of television across 2 different sitcoms, making him the youngest actor in history at that point to hit 100 episodes on 2 separate series. His earlier run was as Ross Malloy on Unhappily Ever After, which ran for 5 seasons on the WB. After Malcolm ended in 2006, Berfield stepped behind the camera almost immediately. He co-founded a production company called J2TV with partner Jason Feltz. Their first project was a reality series called Filthy Rich, Cattle Drive for E, which introduced several members of the Kardashian family to a television audience. In 2010, Berfield was named Chief Creative Officer of Virgin Produced, the entertainment arm of Richard Branson's Virgin Group. He was 24 years old. He married Liza Almeida in 2017, and they have 2 children. For over a decade, he did not act at all. He returned in 2025 to reprise Reese in the revival series, Malcolm in the Middle. Life is Still Unfair, filming on weekdays before returning home to what he described as carpools and diapers. Reese was the brother who could not learn from consequences, and Justin Berfield turned out to be the cast member who learned from them first. Stevie spoke in fragments, breathed in gasps, and stole scenes from every able-bodied actor in the room. Lamar Traylor played Malcolm's best friend as a person whose body limited his movement, but whose mind was as quick and as ruthless as anyone else's in the cast. The character was supposed to appear once, in the pilot. Traylor's performance changed that plan entirely. Traylor was 10 years old when Malcolm in the Middle began. Born in San Bernardino County, California, he had made his screen debut in 1996 with a single-scene appearance in ER opposite George Clooney, followed by a blink-and-miss-it moment as a child in a classroom in Danny DeVito's Matilda. After Malcolm ended in 2006, his career slowed to a handful of small independent films, a customer in Fred and Vinny, a bit part in Dance Foo, before he stepped away from acting entirely around 2012. In the years since, Traylor has built a life far from Hollywood. He became a wire wrap artist, designing and selling wearable jewelry. He has kept his personal life almost completely private, making only rare public appearances. In 2025, he resurfaced in a cameo in Renner, a science fiction film starring his old co-star Frankie Muniz, and he is credited in 2 episodes of the revival series. Stevie breathed hard for every word he spoke, and every word counted. Lamar Traylor chose very deliberately to stop speaking in public, and then, after 13 years of silence, came back just long enough to sit beside Malcolm one more time. Malcolm Wilkerson had an IQ of 165 and a family that made sure that number never protected him from anything. Frankie Muniz played the smartest kid in the room as someone who understood, at a bone-deep level, that intelligence was not the same thing as escape. He broke the 4th wall every episode, looked directly into the camera, and told you exactly what it felt like to know too much and control too little. Muniz was 14 when the show premiered. Born in Woodridge, New Jersey, to a Puerto Rican father and an Irish-Italian mother, he had been acting since age 8, when he played Tiny Tim in a local production of A Christmas Carol in Raleigh, North Carolina. By 2003, he was considered one of the most bankable teenagers in Hollywood. Agent Cody Banks grossed $47 million. Big Fat Liar was a hit. The Emmy nomination came at 15. 2 Golden Globe nominations followed. Then he walked away. After Malcolm ended in 2006, Muniz pursued open-wheel racing, moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, played drums in a band, and made it clear that acting was not the center of his life. In November 2012, at age 26, he was hospitalized with what doctors initially diagnosed as a transient ischemic attack. A second suspected episode followed in 2013. In 2017, on Dancing with the Stars, producers asked him about his most memorable year. He could not answer. He told the cameras he did not remember most of his time on Malcolm in the Middle. The internet decided he had amnesia. The truth, which Muniz has spent years trying to correct, is more ordinary and more human than the headlines allowed. In 2021, he revealed the mini strokes were a misdiagnosis. He had been suffering from migraine auras. The memory gaps were, he said, the natural result of doing an enormous amount of work as a child and teenager. He has 9 concussions from sports and racing. He has difficulty distinguishing certain memories from dreams. His wife, Paige Price, whom he married in 2020, journals their life together so he can look back at it. In 2024, Muniz committed to a full-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season, driving the number 33 for Ryomi Brothers Racing. He returned to play Malcolm in the revival, filming Sunday through Wednesday and flying to races Thursday through Saturday. He has said the revival was the first time in his career he was happy to call himself an actor. Malcolm was the genius who could see everything clearly except his own future, and Frankie Muniz has spent 2 decades building a life that has nothing to do with anyone else's plan for him. Francis Wilkerson was the oldest brother, the one who had already been shipped off to military school by the time the series began. The one whose rebellion had a longer history and a sharper edge than anything his younger siblings could manage. Christopher Masterson played him across 149 of the show's 151 episodes, making Francis the most consistently present character after the core family. Masterson was 19 when Malcolm in the Middle started. Born on Long Island, New York, he had appeared in My Best Friend's Wedding, Scary Movie 2, and a string of small television roles before landing Francis. After the show ended, he transitioned to DJing under the name Chris Kennedy, performing at clubs and private events while taking occasional film and television work. He married actress Yolanda Pecoraro in 2019. His older brother is Danny Masterson, who played Stephen Hyde on that 70s show for 8 seasons. In September 2023, Danny Masterson was convicted of 2 counts of rape with force, violence, or fear of bodily injury. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. The crimes occurred in 2003, the same years Christopher was filming the middle seasons of Malcolm in the Middle. Prior to sentencing, Christopher submitted a letter to the judge describing Danny as a devoted family man and supportive brother. Danny Masterson was expelled from the Church of Scientology following his conviction. Christopher Masterson, who was raised in Scientology alongside his brother, has never publicly addressed his own continued involvement. Francis Wilkerson was the brother who got sent away, the one the family loved from a distance, the one whose troubles were always happening somewhere else. Christopher Masterson returned for the revival in 2025, reprising a role defined by separation and carrying this time a private weight the original show could not have imagined. Dewey Wilkerson was the youngest brother for most of the series, the one who got forgotten, sat on, locked out, and left behind, and who turned all of it into a strange, musical interior life that made him, for many viewers, the most beloved member of the family. Erik Sullivan played Dewey from the age of 8 to the age of 14, and what he brought to the role was a quality that cannot be taught or directed: the ability to be completely still while chaos moved around him, and to make that stillness feel like the smartest thing in the room. Sullivan was born on July 12, 1991, in Worcester, Massachusetts, the only child of a Swedish-born mother and an Irish-American father who owned a Mexican restaurant called The Alamo. He holds a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo. He speaks some Swedish. During the show's run, he appeared in Finding Nemo, Joe Dirt, and Christmas with the Cranks. His last acting credit was in the 2010 film 12, when he was 18 years old. He has not acted since. After attending the University of Southern California, Sullivan enrolled at Harvard, where, as of 2026, he is pursuing a master's degree in Victorian literature. When Bryan Cranston called to tell him the revival had been greenlit, Sullivan's response was immediate and cheerful. He said the project was fantastic. He said he did not want to do it. Jane Kaczmarek told The Guardian in April 2026 that producers offered Sullivan an enormous sum to return. He said no thank you. He is studying Dickens. she said, "and he is an incredible student. He is the only original cast member not to appear in the revival. He has made no public statements about his decision. He has not attended cast reunions. He was last photographed in April 2025, running errands in Boston in a peacoat and cap, holding a cup of coffee." Dewey Wilkerson was the child the family kept forgetting, and Erik Sullivan, at 34, has made a life out of being exactly the kind of person no one can reach unless he wants them to. The family came back together. He wished them well from a library in Cambridge and meant every word of it.